Welcome everyone to the 5 Google Ads pitfalls that cost you clicks, sales, and profit in 2025. My name is Pamela Wagner and I'm super excited to be here with you today. Now, this is for everybody who wants to use Google Ads effectively for their company's growth, right from the start, without adding more hours to their calendar. Because if you're a little bit like me, then probably the last thing you need is just another to-do on your calendar. So, in the next 40 to 45 minutes, we'll look into how taking ownership helps you save 16 to 20 hours of work with Google Ads every single month. We'll look into how to predictably and scalably improve the performance of all your advertising so you double, triple, or even 10x your return of ad spend while avoiding the trap of automation. We'll look at how to kiss goodbye to sleepless nights spent worrying that you're flushing money down the drain on campaigns that just don't work. And instead, we're going to look into how a rock-solid tracking system can look like and how that can work for you. And lastly, we'll look into how you can apply laser-focused data analysis even if you're not a numbers guy or gal and math has never really been your thing, so that you can massively decrease your cost per conversion and get 2 to 10 times more results out of the same budget. Now, I typically don't make a lot of promises, but here's one promise I want to make to you. This is going to be a step-by-step roadmap to turn the 5 most common pitfalls with Google Ads into more clicks, sales, and profit for your 2025. Now, before we get into all the good stuff, I just want to make sure that we're on the same page here. And there's a couple of house rules here, right? This is not a make a million tomorrow. It really isn't. Neither mine nor my clients' results are typical. And it surely isn't your classic Google Ads webinar. Now, the other thing I also want to mention here is that this is not for startups. This is for companies who are making at least 250, 300K a year revenue. Of course, the higher the better. But those that are selling currently products, that are selling services, that have a proof of concept, right? Now, before we get into the first step, I just want to quickly check in with you and see where you're at. Does this sound like you? Are you sick and tired of everything changing in Google Ads and having zero predictability like all the time? Does a Google rep just tell you to keep creating performance max campaigns or to increase that budget? I mean, I keep hearing this almost every single week. Do you have a live website, but it's just not converting as much as you wish? Or maybe you got some good in-store traffic happening, but there's some slower season on the online side? Do you see others running campaigns successfully and scaling their business, but doubt if that might ever be possible for you? Do you hate how complex and technical everything is and wish there was just a simple way to just know how Google Ads works? I mean, there are just so many buttons that you can click on, and oftentimes the most important options are hidden. And if you've hired an agency before, you're currently working with one, are you wondering if they're currently actually doing a good job and not just bringing you ROAS, but they're bringing actual ROI? So they're not just bringing you a return on ad spend, but they actually bring you a return of your investment in working with that agency and your ad spend. And overall, do you feel like it's just an overwhelming Google Ads jungle that's impossible to navigate profitably sometimes? See, if this is how you feel, then I got good news for you, because none of these issues is the real problem. The real problem is that you haven't taken these 5 steps yet. And all of them are doable, no matter where you are right now. See, once you are aware of these 5 steps, you'll be more focused than ever with your budget and save 16 to 20 hours every month that other marketers and business owners desperately wish they had. You'll know that the hustle is not what brings you more revenue. Like, working more is not going to result in more customers, but rather making smarter choices and creating an unshakable mindset so that you can stay focused and make the right decisions no matter what's happening out there. You'll know how to use your existing assets strategically without creating more marketing material. You'll stop constantly throwing more and more money at something that you don't even know will be profitable. And you'll know exactly which campaigns are right for you and what steps to take right from the start. And so that way you'll avoid losing 50 to 70% on costly mistakes. And of course, in turn, this helps you use your budget more efficiently, get more clicks, more leads, and revenue faster than your competitors. And lastly, you'll have complete clarity about how to track your ads correctly, how much you're spending, and what you're getting out of your investment, so that you can make more predictable decisions for your business that lead to growth and sales. Now, I just want to take a quick second to introduce myself so that you know who's talking here and why you should be listening. As said in the beginning, my name is Pamela Wagner and I'm a former Google employee. So I've pretty much learned everything right at the source, right? Now, me and my company, Ajala Digital, that was founded almost a decade ago, we help companies easily 2 to 10x their results, whether that's clicks, leads, purchases, and so on with their current ad budget. The whole company is a Google partner, we're Google certified, and a couple of years ago, I also got honored to be on the Forbes 30 Under 30 list. Now, over the past decade, we've worked with more than 3,000 advertisers in all different kinds of industries all over the world, from Hawaii to New Zealand. Now, if I tell you that there's no industry that I haven't seen, trust me, there is no industry that I haven't seen trying to use Google Ads or using Google Ads to grow their business. So whatever industry your business is in, we've seen it, been there, done that. And I've also recently completed a master's in psychology at Harvard Extension School. So what you're learning is not just typical like marketing or ad knowledge. It is really mixed in with the latest consumer behavior insights, consumer psychology, what makes people say yes. What makes people say yes to that click on the ad, to then click again on your website on like add to cart, and then again to give them your payment details, right? So we're really making sure that we got you here from the click to the ad to the click off the purchase or the sign up or the registration, whatever your goal is with your company. Now, let's explore the 5 pitfalls. These are the 5 key pitfalls that you need to avoid to successfully run Google Ads and turn them into a lasting ad channel with zero stress and absolute clarity, to be always one step ahead of your competitors, of fellow digital marketers and business owners. And I'm going to walk you through all 5 of them in this session right now. Now, for the first step, not taking ownership, I want you to take a step back. Over 75% of marketing managers are burnt out or close to it. This was a study done by Blind, and the top reason for that was unmanageable workload. See, the problem is that we oftentimes don't know what we don't know. And as a result of that, we just keep adding more things to our to-do list. We think that doing more will give us more results. But instead of that, we just lose sleep, we lose sales, we lose clients and money. I mean, I can talk from a personal experience. The more I have on my plate, if it's beyond a certain amount of hours, the worse the results go, right? Because just after a certain point in time, we lose concentration, we lose focus, right? So anything we talk here about is really about reducing your workload to get more results from doing less. And so a lot of people get to the point where they wonder and if they will ever get any money back that they invested in all these ads, right? They wonder, I got all these thousands of clicks, all these like sometimes tens of thousands of clicks and views, but what's that actually good for, right? So when you already have so much on your plate, right? The question really is, will more work really lead to more results? And at what expense? At the expense of your health, well-being, relationships? Is it really worth it, right? And I dug a little bit into my research box, so to speak. And what I found is that less than 6 hours of sleep make us lose over 30% in productivity. So unlike many people believe that, oh, I can sleep when I'm dead, right? Or I'm going to get that sleep next weekend. That's not how sleep works. Once you lose sleep, it's lost. You cannot make up for sleep. That's just not how our bodies are made. And continuous lack of sleep actually ages you for about a decade, right? So you might say, oh, I'm going to get that sleep later. I'm going to do that when I'm older. Well, you might not have the time for that, right? And I really want you to understand that it doesn't have to be that way. A lot of entrepreneurs and marketing managers and business owners get caught up in that because they think that's just how it is and that's what everybody around them says, right? See, one of the major issues that we found is that many marketing managers and CEOs spend about 80% of the time on the things that are not working, instead of leveraging the 20% that bring you most of the results, right? Oftentimes they are more operators being engaged in every single detail rather than owning their respective job, their respective title, and really making sure they make the right decisions and then have their team act and implement accordingly. Now, in terms of ads, what this means, we've seen that a lot of people spend at least 1 hour a day trying to figure out their ads. But with the right system, you only need about 30 to 60 minutes per week. And so suddenly you save 16 to 20 hours every month. You really shouldn't have to look at your ads every single day. That's not how Google Ads was made, right? Some people might tell you that, but it just, that's not how it works. That's not how you get the most out of it, right? And so typically when clients start working with us, they don't just reduce the time that they spend on their ads, but they also see less stress and work. They're able to focus better. They're able to get more done in less time. And they'll know exactly which marketing activities, which campaigns, which ads, which keywords bring them money and which ones don't, right? And of course, you'll be able to communicate your decisions and actions with confidence to your stakeholders, to your teammates, to your team leaders, to your co-founders, whoever else is involved, right? Or you're able to make these respective changes confidently yourself because you know exactly which buttons to click and what's the effect of you removing, reducing, increasing, adding something, right? Now, just a quick food for thought here. What would you do with 60 to 20 hours of additional time every week or every month? What would you do with that? Would you spend more time with your kids? Would you invest it in creating a different section for your business? Would you do more sports? Would you spend it more with your spouse? I'm sure if you're a little bit like me, there's no lack of ideas of what you could do with 16 to 20 hours additional on your plate, right? Now, to give you a little bit of an idea of how that step looks like with our clients, I want to talk about an e-commerce company in this case. They are in a niche sector, and when they came to us, their account was in a mess, and time was short, and the bills from the agency just kept stacking up, right? But the results didn't. So they just kept getting all these bills, didn't know what they were actually paying for, and they were kind of desperate because they're like, it's just like, we just feel like we're throwing money out of the window here. We don't know what's coming back, right? So we jumped in and we helped them create a proper strategy and tracking for the ad account. And within a year, within 12 months, we helped them grow from about $500,000 in revenue to $1.5 million in revenue in just a year, right? And here's also a screenshot that roughly shows you of what the cost versus the revenue was for one channel in particular. We've used a mix here, but this is one channel in particular, right? So they spent about $80K in ad spend and they got over $500,000 in revenue from that. And it's not typically the money that's the best thing here. What matters most to people is the personal experiences that they can now create because of that. And for this specific business owner, his goal has always been to open an art gallery. And so he was able to do that because he now was able to free up some time. He didn't always have to work in the business, he worked more on the business. And as a result, he realized one of his long dreams that he's had. Now, let's move on to step number 2. Automation is not your best friend. I know Google is currently telling you, go automate, right? Automate the hell of your account, right? But truth to be told, Google is optimized to increase its own revenue. It's not anymore optimized to increase your budget. And Google Ads is not just a simple, I'll turn it on and my sales will skyrocket platform anymore. That's how it used to be like 10 years ago, 15 years ago. And we sometimes have people come to us that told us, hey, I turned on these ads in 2010 or 2008 or 2012 and it just worked, right? But that's not the case anymore, right? So it used to be easy to figure it out, but it became one of the most complex ad platforms out there. And it's not anymore for everybody, unlike Google intended it originally, right? Everybody can access it, but the platform isn't anymore for everybody. See, Google tries to help businesses succeed with more and more automation, right? Sometimes you might even have a Google rep contacting you and being like, hey, I'll set up these campaigns for you. And then you got all these Performance Max campaigns and you're like, what do I do now with all that, right? And suddenly traffic is changing, or maybe it's working in the beginning for a couple of weeks and then suddenly it stops working, right? But then Google tells you they call you back, but they never call you back. And then if you try to contact them, nobody kind of responds, right? So, and then you also have all these recommendations, right? So say no more. It's a hot mess right now. So how are you supposed to figure that out, right? The big issue is that most advertisers do not have enough data in their Google Ads accounts in order to make use of all the automation, machine learning, AI, and so on, right? So you gotta take a different path here. And also, there are tons of troubles with auto-applied suggestions that don't make any sense. There's wrong phone numbers, bad ad copy, misspellings, and so on, right? And typically what we see because of all that automation happening is that companies end up losing about 30 to 50% of their budget, right? Because it goes to platforms that are of no use to them, keywords that are of no use to them. Like just today, we reviewed this campaign with one of our clients, and she was using a Performance Max campaign that will change most likely now, that was focused on peripheral neuropathy. And as part of the search category, also terms showed up with acupuncture-related keywords. Now, that's related, but it wasn't what we wanted to focus on in that campaign. But as a Performance Max campaign was set up, you can't really exclude it very specifically, partially also because Google says it's search categories and not really search terms or keywords. So it keeps it all very broad, right? So what ends up happening is you end up wasting money. You don't know how much money you're wasting, right? You lose sales and you lose customers, because if customers look for acupuncture and suddenly you show them something about peripheral neuropathy, then that's not super fitting, right? So as a result, most customers are just told by Google you should just increase your budget, right? And Google has very neatly also bake that into their recommendations, where they tell you, hey, increase your budget and you'll get more points here for your campaigns, right? But that's really not always the goal. Now, I want to take a look at an example to kind of show you a little bit more how that looks like in the real world, right? So let's assume you have $10,000 in ad budget per month, right? And let's assume out of the 30 to 50% of the last budget, you only lose 30%, right? So we're going to go with a conservative estimate of about 30% lost, which means you lose about $3,000 out of those 10K, right? Now, that means that you'd waste about $36,000 every year. Now, depending on where you're based, $36,000 can already cover a full-time person's salary, right? Again, strongly emphasizing depending on where you're based. We work with clients all over the world, so these numbers can vary, right? Now, if you had that $36,000 spent profitably, not lost, right? Then let's say with the usual 10K, you'd get 1,000 leads, right? But now you get 30% more out of your budget because you've made the respective changes. And that means you get 300 leads more every month and 3,600 leads more every year. Now, what would you do in your business, or how would your business change if you suddenly got like 300 leads more every month or 3,600 leads more every month? And for some businesses, it might be 30 leads or 360 leads every year, right? The numbers might be different, but again, consider if you just got 30% better results. What would that mean for your business? Would you be able to hire another person? Would you be able to focus on other sections of your business? Would you be able to hire an assistant, right? Like, I'm sure there are plenty of ideas that you'd have of what would happen if your business grew, right? Now, I just want to give you 3 manual steps to triumph over automation, because Google tells you to always keep up the automation, right? First things first, eliminate auto-applied suggestions in your account. This is super important, right? Secondly, check your ad account once per week or once every 2 weeks. Typically, doing it more often does not give you better results. And thirdly, double check if your conversion tracking works properly. In about 50% of the cases when new clients come to us, we actually find that their conversion tracking isn't working properly, right? They use too many different codes, they're using old conversions, they're using the wrong conversions, right? So recently I had a conversation with someone who was still tracking clicks on a button on the initial landing page, which sometimes can make sense, but in this case he wanted to measure the actual click of the submission button on another page, or then the conversion of submitting a form, right? So we really got to make sure we measure the right action at the right time on your website. Now, I'll give you an example of how eliminating automation has helped one of our past clients succeed with Google Ads. This was a major real estate company, and they were working with an agency where there was little to no transparency. There was a lack of clarity on what was actually being done and achieved, and they paid thousands of dollars every single month in agency fees. And what we found is that for those thousands of dollars every month, all that the agency had done was create or connect a third-party tool that automatically resulted in 20,000 bid changes to the account. Now, bid changes are all good, but if your campaigns are basically not set up well, then the system obviously can't optimize it properly, right? You can only optimize what you have. So you got to make sure you have a really strong baseline there. And so it took us a little bit of time to restructure the account, about 4 weeks, but we helped them figure out a routine, and we'd help them remove automations, and the click-through rate increased 5 times as a result of these actions. So this means they suddenly get 5 times more clicks out of the same budget, right? Now, I got another example here for you. This was a company in the personal development space, and they were paying about 80 francs per lead, right? Now, it just, for some companies, that's fine. Some people can pay 80 bucks, 80 francs for a lead, for a purchase. That can absolutely work. But for the funnel that they had, it wasn't sustainable. So also for them, we removed the automation. We helped them optimize the keywords and the match types. Still, the match types are important, right? Google is trying to remove them. I have a hunch Google is going to try to remove them one day. But for now, they're still working, right? And as a result of these actions, they went from 80 francs per lead down to 7 francs per lead in less than 2 weeks, right? So I hope this helps you see a little bit of how removing the automation and going sometimes against Google's advice can actually be of a huge benefit for your company, right? Now, let's move on to the third step, not tracking properly. This is a huge issue. Or how to get 3 steps ahead of your competitors. And I get it. Look, the majority of companies don't have their own data set up. They don't have access to their own data, or they don't have the tracking set up correctly. And it can be difficult if you already have so much to deal with as a business owner. And then again, you have to look at like pieces of code and tracking pixels. I understand it's not the most fun thing to do. But the problem is if there's lack of admin rights, if there's lack of knowledge or wrong data, that also leads to wrong decisions. And I just looked up not a random website, I'm obviously not going to say who it is, but let's say a known website. And just by visiting the website, I first of all see one too many Google Tag Manager codes here. I see an old Universal Analytics code. Universal Analytics isn't, working anymore since mid-2024. And I see way too many conversion remarketing tags that load just upon visiting the website, not even taking an action yet, right? So imagine if I now count just a single visit on the website 3 times as a conversion, right? Or twice for like the remarketing list. So I suddenly have twice as many people or 3 times as many people on the remarketing list than what the actual number of users is, right? So the problem of that is that in the end, companies waste an average 70% of their budget due to incorrect tracking setup, right? They lose crucial data, they lose speed, they lose revenue, and of course you lose customers, right? Because imagine if you think you're targeting a customer like 3 times with an ad, but in fact they're seeing it 9 times because they're on 3 different like free marketing lists. That's no fun at all, right? So I just want to make sure that you see how everything is connected, right? It's not just about the ads, it's about the whole ecosystem around it. And every second more of a page load time decreases the conversion rate by 20%, right? And we've seen that if the landing page doesn't load quickly, people jump off, people lose interest, people go to competitors, right? So you just lose potential leads and purchases. And your page load time has a direct impact on your revenue or lead generation, right? So you could have ads that are well set up, but if your tracking isn't properly working, if your page isn't properly loading because there's too many codes on it, then that can drive away customers easily. So stop wasting money. Make sure you own your data. Demand that you have admin access to everything, right? And practice absolute transparency. This is so important for us. If our clients ask us any questions, we'll respond to them. Any questions that you have about tracking, about your ads, about analytics, we want you to have the knowledge to make proper decisions for your company, right? And it's your data, it's your ad campaign, so you should at any point in time know what's going on, right? You should get answers to your questions, and that's incredibly important to us. And what we also recommend people to do is that they try to discover the basics of analytics themselves, even if they're not like a numbers guy or gal, right? Now, let's assume you improved your page load time by only 3 seconds. That would mean that your conversion rate would increase by 60%. What would you do if your ads converted 60% better? What would you do if you suddenly got 60% more leads? If you got 60% more clicks or traffic on your website? What would that mean for your business? Now, to show you how that translates, or how better tracking translates into real business success, I got an example here for you. This is one of our past clients where they were using ClickFunnels and a highly complex setup of different domains, landing pages, funnels, and marketing platforms. And look, my whole due respect to what's been built up with ClickFunnels, what Russell Brunson has built, but it might not be the best fitting platform for everybody, especially when you want to do tracking properly, right? And not be upsold at every single stage. So we help them simplify the tracking with the right structure of Google Analytics properties and views. And it doesn't have to be as technical as you may think, right? Like, these are aspects and steps that you can take one day at a time, and with the right guidance, it'll make sense very quickly, right? So, as a result of fixing the tracking, they got absolute clarity on where leads came from, which ads were bringing them leads, which audiences were working, which locations were working. And as a result, the cost per lead decreased to be less than on Meta, right? So there's huge potential here by just making sure that the tracking is being fixed and works properly, right? And it doesn't matter where you are. If you are somewhere in North America, in Europe, in Asia, there's different ways to achieve that despite different kinds of regulations around data protection and so on, right? Now, let's move on to step number 4. Ignoring the secret weapon. LFDA, or what we call laser-focused data analysis. Optimize your campaigns for success. See, a lot of potential new clients that approach us ask themselves one question, which is, why is the money that I'm throwing out not coming back? Like, I'm taking care of all these campaigns. I probably had hired agencies before. I have all these ads set up, and it should be working, right? And the problem is that most companies usually waste about 50 to 80% off the budget on the wrong ads and campaigns. So they end up setting up that Performance Max campaign a Google rep tells them to set up, right? But that first works, and then after some weeks it doesn't anymore, right? But the thing with all that is there are 2 key problems, right? First of all, you got to consider 98% of first-time users on any website won't take any action at all. And only about 30% of users accept cookies actively, especially in the European Union, right? If you're in North America, then that's obviously quite a lot more, or sometimes you don't even need those cookie banners, right? But sometimes up to 70% of data about your users may be missing, also depending on how you have the tracking set up. And so what a lot of people used to do at that point is they bought a $10 Udemy course, they tried to fix it, maybe hire somebody off of Fiverr, follow the steps, but then they already got confused to step 1.5, right? And so they either ended up giving up or turning on a campaign and feeling as confused as before, right? Like, what do you do now? Or people just spent lots of money on hiring an agency, hoping that they got it all done for them, but then only to be disappointed by lack of communication, clarity, and results. I mean, just last week, I had a conversation with a business owner who is currently working with an agency, and I showed him all these aspects that should be improved around the campaigns, and he asked me, he was like, well, so tell me, what should I do? Because what you're telling me seems so obvious. It seems like that an agency should take care of that. And I was like, well, to be honest, if somebody isn't doing their work, I'd probably have a very serious conversation with them, right? So just know you always have a choice, right? But the last thing I want you to be doing is to just be burning money and time, right? And lose sleep and nerves and hope, right? It really does not have to be that way, right? So what we've done with our clients to kind of like help them take the first baby steps there, and to make sure that they really know which campaigns, which ads, and so on to bring them money, we have developed a new way that's called LFDA, laser focused data analysis. And it's 4 steps. First of all, you implement correct tracking. Secondly, you apply absolute focus. A lot of people do not have focus. They just try to run way too many campaigns, have thousands of keywords in their account, and it's all just a big mess, right? So you got to make sure to focus really on what matters to you and what matters to your customer, right? Then you work out the 3 to 4 key metrics that are important to you and your company. Most likely, any kind of like agency reports that contain more than 3 to 4 key metrics, it's too many numbers that nobody ever looks at, right? There's really 3 to 4 key metrics that matter for you and your company that can be a bit different from business to business, but those are the ones you need in order to make the right decisions. And then you focus on optimizing the 20% that bring you 80% of the results, right? So that you know exactly, this is step 1, 2, 3 that I take every week. I don't need more than 30 minutes for that. And that way I can drive 80% of the results. Now, once they started doing that, what our clients saw is that they started saving 16 to 20 hours every week to every month, right? They were able to hire more people. They were able to double to 10x the results that they got from their ads, whether that's clicks, leads, etc. And they were able to sleep well again and enough, right? I mean, one of our clients, he decided at one point to pause the collaboration with us because he'd gotten too many leads and not had the right staff to take care of them all, which is a really good problem to have, right? You have too much demand and you cannot fulfill it. And after 2 months, he actually came back to us because he was like, hey, we need you again because my cost per lead has like gone up 5 times in those 2 months that we didn't work together because of just certain recommendations that he saw and just getting lost, right? And so we started to work together again. And within, I think, 2 to 3 weeks, we had the cost per lead down to about $30 to $40 what it was before, right? So obviously, once you achieve that, you'll be able to have a consistent lead flow. You'll be able to, most of our clients really see that reliable stream of leads coming in, right? Now, to show you how that could look like for a SaaS company, right? Because again, we've worked with businesses of all kinds of industries, right? They decrease the cost per conversion from $700 to $150 in less than a month, right? And they were able to get 6 times more leads out of their budget, right? Without increasing any budget. I mean, tons of business owners that tell me, I talked with an agency and they tell me I need at least like $10,000 a month or $15,000 a month to get started with ads. And that's just not true. Obviously, if you're above a certain company size, sure. But for most small businesses, you don't need a 5-figure amount to get started, right? Now, let's move on to the last step. Making the same costly mistakes as others. And in the 10 years that I've been doing this, I keep seeing this over and over again. People trying to do this on their own, trying to solve it on their own for the first couple of weeks, months, sometimes years, only to end up losing a lot of money. And typically I've seen that there are 2 extremes. It's just giving the responsibility to an employee without knowing what it's about because we only got so much time, right? So they just put about a job ad there for a marketing manager and include social media management and content editing and paid ads and newsletter articles and SEO and everything in one description, and they just hope that their ad campaigns are going to perform really well. But that's not how it works. Digital marketing got way too complex, right? Or they hired an agency that's oftentimes not really knowing what they're doing, and then they get disappointed, right? And I understand it. See, most agencies tap completely in the dark. It's difficult. It can often feel very lonely, and you end up missing out on key features. And once you get no real data, you also have no real results, right? So you got this insecurity about where your business is heading and if it will still be profitable. We tend to have quite some conversations as well where with companies that tell us about that their competitors went out of business because apparently their like marketing wasn't working and so on. And that's really the last thing we want you to do. We don't want you to be at the point where you ask yourself, am I going to run out of business? Because most likely, if you're the owner, you created this business at one point because you were really passionate about it, because you really wanted to create a certain lifestyle for you, a certain freedom, a certain impact for the people that you offer your services or products to, right? So there are oftentimes a lot of ways to do things differently from how a lot of people are used to doing them, right? And so there's a deep belief that I've developed here and probably now had for the past like at least 8 to 9 years, which is that everyone should have a mentor. Because mentoring brings two things: new ideas and accountability. And if you're a little bit like me, it's great to have new ideas, but what's even better is if you have accountability that checks in with you, that asks you, hey, how are you doing? Did you take care of this? Did you think of this? Right? And there are new ideas right now in your head that would have not been there if you didn't make time for this training. See, a good mentor will give you great ideas and make sure you act on them. But a great mentor will also put together a powerful group of people all working towards similar goals. And this multiplies everyone's effectiveness exponentially. See, a 30-year-old traditional service company had reached out to us, but they'd only had a marketing manager since about 6 months, right? And so, of course, that one person was completely overwhelmed with doing everything, right? Because there was a lot to catch up on. Plus, that was back when lockdowns were a thing, 50% lower revenue had hit them quite hard, right? So they reached out. And we helped them create a focus. We helped them create 3 to 4 metrics that really mattered to them. And we helped them avoid a whole bunch of costly mistakes. And as a result of that, their click-through rate increased from 0.34% to 5.3% in less than 2 months. That's a 15 times better quality of ads. And in addition to that, the cost per click decreased from 2.14 euros to 1.19 euros. So they doubled the number of clicks with the same number of impressions. And all that despite this special challenge. They had half of the budget than before, right? So I hope this goes to show you that by applying these steps, you can create a real difference in your campaigns. You can make these changes with the right guidance, with asking for help, right? See, today I promised that we'll look into how taking ownership helps you save 16 to 20 hours every month with Google Ads. We looked into how to predictably and scalably improve the performance of all your advertising so that you double, triple, or even 10x your return of ad spend while avoiding the trap of automation. We looked into how to kiss goodbye to sleepless nights spent worrying that you're flushing money down the drain in campaigns that just don't work. And instead, having a rock-solid tracking system that works for you. And we looked into how to apply laser-focused data analysis even if you're not a numbers guy or gal and math has never really been your thing, so that you can massively decrease your cost per conversion and get 2 to 10 times more leads or purchases out of the same budget. Now, in summary, here's what you need to win to turn the 5 pitfalls around. Take ownership, right? Make sure you're the admin of all the accounts. Ask the right questions. Get the data that you need. Forget automation. Focus on the 20% that matter and really make sure that you take the right manual steps, even if that goes against what Google keeps telling you. Get your tracking right? And remember, messy data leads to messy decisions. If you have proper data, you can make the right decisions and better decisions for your business. And use the secret weapon to optimize your campaigns: laser-focused data analysis. Establish 3 to 4 key metrics that matter to you. Keep absolute focus. And invest in mentoring. Get that help. Avoid making those costly mistakes, because I'm sure you got a lot of better use for a couple of thousand, $10,000s of dollars than making some mistakes, right? So you want to make sure that you invest them wisely. So now you have a choice, right? You can take all of the information that I've given you over the last, what's it been, like 30 minutes or so, 40 minutes, and do nothing with it, right? You can throw it out of the window and just forget all about it and move on with your life as normal, right? And tomorrow will be no different than today. But let me ask you, where is that going to get you? If you do nothing, if you change nothing, and I can tell you what will happen 1 year, 3 years, or 5 years down the road, because I've seen it plenty of times when people did not act. They'll typically be burnt out. Some close their business. Some lose their clients faster than can acquire them, and just get caught up in that struggle of just constantly working in the business. Or you can focus on doing things differently, on implementing these steps, right? On making sure you sleep better, on making sure your campaigns work clockwise for you without having to look at them every single day, while getting leads on a more consistent basis at a lower cost. You can get that help, right? And if that's what you want, then here's how I can help. I've set aside some time in the next 72 hours to speak to you personally about how you can apply these ideas to your business starting today. Whatever your biggest challenges are with ads, whichever industry you're in, I've seen them and I know how to overcome them. So on this session, I'll help you craft an exact roadmap for how you can personally turn these 5 pitfalls around and get 2 to 10 times more results from every dollar you spend on ads, while having customers and clients who are raving about your products and services 24/7, right? Now, the cost, it's absolutely free, right? But there is a catch. And the catch is that it's not for everybody. So here's who this is for. You must be absolutely committed to leveraging the power of ads with total integrity. You must have an active business that is generating at least 6-figure revenue. This is not for startups, right? And you must be ready to do things differently, right? We will take you by the hand, right? We don't expect you to know everything about ads, right? This is what we're here for. And if that's you, then I'd invite you to book a strategy session now. You'll see a button pop up somewhere in this video or below, depending on which platform you're watching it. And you might be wondering at this point, why am I doing this, right? See, I want to help you succeed. You deserve to know how ads really work without worry or confusion and with clear guidance. And if there's anything that I've learned in the past 10 years that can help you save time or money, then I'm more than happily sharing that with you. Plus, I know that you might want my help to transform your business if you've made it to this point. And if so, we can discuss it and see if it's a good fit for both of us. And if not, that's fine too. So head over to bit.ly/Google Ads Strategy and select your date and time of your preference. After that, you'll be redirected to a short questionnaire that helps us get to know you a little bit better and make sure that this is a fit, right? Or, in the words of one of our dear clients, our revenue dropped and we couldn't figure out for the life of us. I've spoken to several ad agencies and consultants with no luck. But Pamela figured it out in the first 10 minutes of our call and then piled on a ton of more value on top of that. If I had a call with her earlier, it would have saved us $200,000 and made us more money on top of that, right? Who doesn't want that? So go to bit.ly/Google Ads Strategy, select the date and time of your preference, fill out a couple of questions, and I look forward to talking with you personally in our 101 in the coming days. And with that, we've come to the end of this training. It was a pleasure being here with you. It was a pleasure sharing my knowledge with you, and I look forward to chatting with you soon.